This is the King Chasing Podcast, where we keep Christ at the center of athletics. Here's your host, Brandon Gilmore.
Well, today's guest is John Zeller, the Executive Director of SCORE International. John has previously served as the head baseball coach at Tennessee Temple University and the Masters University, and is currently the chaplain for the New York Yankees Single-A affiliate, the Tampa Tarpons. A member on the board of directors of SCORE for over 35 years, John travels all over the United States speaking at churches, sporting events, camps, and conferences, while also traveling overseas on short-term mission trips throughout the year. Thanks for listening today, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with John. Well, hey, John, welcome to King Chasing. Thanks for joining us. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very good, Brandon, and thank you for inviting me. And I love this new mantra, King Chasing. I love that.
Yes, sir. We're happy to have you on. Let's go ahead and take a stroll down memory lane. You played at Tennessee Temple, which is a former NCCAA member institution, and then became the head coach in 1981. Can you talk about some of your favorite memories from that time?
I would love to. I got too many of them, but let me share a couple of them. I went in 1971. I actually played soccer and baseball at Tennessee Temple, and Ron Bishop was my coach in soccer, and we just had a great time. We had a great team, but the NCCAA only went to district tournaments back then, and so it was a little different. There wasn't a national tournament, but we had a great time. Loved playing. Bryan College was very good. And Covenant College, probably the biggest memory was anytime you beat Covenant College, because they were always NAIA ranked as well as in the NCCAA, but they were very strong in soccer. We beat those guys 2 out of my 4 years, and that was awesome. And then in baseball, we played, and again, there wasn't even an NCCAA. Yes, there was a district tournament back then. I'm sorry, there was. And we pretty much had good success there. And then when I coached there in 81 through 85, going down memory lane, we inaugurated the national tournament in 1984 in Chattanooga. And so you had to have an invitational for 2 years, 84, 85. And I had a joy being a part of that, getting that off the ground with such guys like Hank Burbridge and Grace College out of Indiana, Messiah College. We just had a lot of really good schools. Alabama Christian, which is now Faulkner. But anyway, had a great 2 years of tournaments there, and was really Lee College, which is now Lee University. But that was a lot of fun. Probably the highlight of my coaching career was we beat Liberty University. So that was pretty cool when Al Worthington was still rolling, and that was a good day when we did that. So,
yeah, that sounds awesome. Liberty University. You mentioned Ron Bishop was your coach when you played there, and you followed his footsteps as the coach. How important was Ron in your life?
Well, definitely was a guy that I remember going to Tennessee Temple in 1971. I didn't know anybody. I didn't really. The first day I stepped on the campus was the first day I ever went there, and but I saw they were trying out for soccer. He was a soccer coach, and at that time he made his fame in basketball. But I tried out for soccer. My brothers all played. I grew up in the Amish country in Pennsylvania, so all my brothers played soccer. So I grew up as a kid with soccer. You know, Sunday afternoons and Saturdays we're going out somewhere and playing soccer. It wasn't playing football. But so I was always around it. I just never played it organized. And so I went out and made the team. I don't know how. Made the travel squad. Don't know how that happened either. But it was a lot of fun. And then Ron left. He went into the pastorate for a little bit, but he came back to Tennessee Temple in 76, I believe, 75, 76. And he then became the athletic director, basketball coach. And then in 1981, he offered me the baseball coach at Tennessee Temple. The impact he had on me was tremendous. First of all, I had never met a Christian man in my life that had great fun, just living life and living the Christian life. And I also met a man that was so passionate about winning the lost. I'd never been around that. And then you incorporate that with athletics. Man, that was just impactful, impressive, and used it in my heart to draw me to Jesus Christ in a more relationship, not a relationship, but in a more intimate relationship. And it was none but a blessing. And the impact he had on me is what I'm doing today.
That's awesome. Now, I know in 1984, I believe it was you and Ron and a couple other guys were a part of the creation of SCORE International, where you still currently work. Can you tell us how that idea came about?
Yeah, well, it wasn't my idea, but it always was Ron's idea. And so one day he just pulled up in the parking lot at the gymnasium, called me and another coach in and said, "Look, I really feel God wants me to start this ministry, SCORE International. And I need some guys to join me, and I need a group of 5." And so he pulled in another guy named Marty Benton out of Woodstock, Georgia. And we walked down to some lawyers' offices in Chattanooga, Tennessee, signed a bunch of paperwork. I had no idea what I was signing my name to back in those days, but we signed it. His longtime assistant, Lefty Glasscock, Coach Glasscock, was the basketball coach there in those heydays with Ron. And myself, Pat Bishop, Ron's wife, and then Marty, we signed the papers, and we're off and running. We take our first trip in 85, and the rest is history. And what God has done, Brandon, it's only a work of God. We like to say, and we've said this since 84, it's going to be spirit-led, it's going to be gospel-centered, and it's going to engage people in missions. And I can tell you honestly and truthfully and with all integrity, that's what we've done.
I love to hear that. You mentioned 1985. That was a blessed year. That was the year that I was born and joined this earth.
I heard that.
Now, 1984 obviously has been some time. I know the exact year since it's a year older than me. But what has it meant to you to be a part of the growth, and how has SCORE grown since then?
Back in those days, when we started, it was a matter of just taking athletes to engage them in missions, fulfilling the Great Commission, Matthew 28, 19, and 20. And what we tried to do was engage athletes. But as we started going, Brandon, to a lot of the same places, Mexico, Argentina, even Europe at that point, Central America, we started zeroing in where God was directing us into certain areas, and then we started putting flags in the sand. And once we started putting flags in the sand, then we became more than a sports ministry. That was our heartbeat, that was our birth foundation. But now we started taking other groups to come in. Church planters and church groups and teen groups and construction, medical, dental, all kinds of things, children's ministries, vacation Bible schools, choirs. It just started growing. And once we started doing there, we like to say now we're a full sending mission organization. We still do a lot of athletes, and we still take a lot of athletic teams on trips, but we take way more people on mission trips than athletes. And that's because, once we started saying, hey, wait a minute, we've seen a lot of people come to Christ here. What do we do with them? And how do we get them discipled, planted into churches, and get them to grow? And that's what it's just almost unbelievable. The buildings, the church plants, the call to missions. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many missionaries, came out of those mission trips and called to missions or full-time ministry people, and I run across them all the time. Hey, I went on that mission trip. That's what drew me. I was talking to a young man the other day. He's in youth ministry heading toward the pastor, and he said, my call on full-time service was when I went with SCORE on a baseball trip to the Dominican Republic. I was playing college baseball. God called me, and here I am today. And so those stories are repeated. Plus, in all honesty, Brandon, we help start a lot of ministries as well and help other ministries get started. One that's very much associated with y'all and Judy Fox and her volleyball ministry. And that is kingdom work, and we love doing those kind of things. And it's just a blessing to see what SCORE has done. Just like all of us, COVID set us back a little bit, but now we're starting to come back up, and it's just amazing what God is doing.
It is, and I'm sure there's a lot more stories that you don't know about of other people who are maybe impacted by you and how they're now making that same impact on other people. I know short-term mission trips are a big piece of what SCORE does. What are some other ministries of SCORE? And I know you just kind of briefly touched on it, but like I know you guys do stuff with to prevent human trafficking and things like that. So can you just kind of talk about just all the various ministries that SCORE does?
I mentioned that the church planting and the engage people in missions, but we're very much involved in human trafficking. We have a home in the Dominican Republic for not only ladies but also young girls called Lily's House, and that's been operating probably 10, 15 years now, trying to help ladies come off the street by educating them, giving them a skill, and just winning them to Jesus and giving them a foundation of Jesus Christ, so they can feed their families and they don't have to get out on the streets. We medical dental, that's a huge part wherever we go. And then also we have homes that we have a girls' home in Dominican Republic for girls who either have been sexually abused or abandoned. That's called Pasitos de Jesus. We have a boys' home that we help partner with that's now a standalone home on its own, but it's called Josiah's House. And then we also have a home called Emmanuel's House, which a lady by the name Makaya, who is a leader of that, and it's a Christian school for the very, very, very poor kids who can't afford to even go to public school in Dominican, and we help there. In other places in Panama, we help with the needs of two Indian tribes that are still operating today like they did 400 years ago, the Gamboa Indians and the Cunan Indians out of Panama. Costa Rica, we're very much involved with a home there called Pond, through the Pond Ministry, and we do a lot of work with them. We do a lot of work in the inner cities of San Jose, Panama City, San Pedro Sula. We have a Christian school there that we partnered with, and we still do. We do pastoral training now in Honduras as well as Dominican Republic, and we have camps in Brazil, and as well as Bogota, Colombia, reaching thousands of high school kids that come in. So there's just man, I probably can't even recall half or more of what we're doing, but it's we really believe that God has ordained us in a special way. And I'll give you one little story here real quick. We're now in Hilldale, Utah. A lot of people don't know the town, but they know the person. And that was a story of about a man named Warren Jeffs. It's what they call fundamentalist Latter-day Saints community. And he was taken into custody, put in prison, but he had 23 wives. And a year ago, we were allowed to come in there and help bring, through the platform of sports, to help bring sports into their community. Those kids were not allowed to do anything for 30 plus years. They weren't even allowed to go play on the playground in the school because he controlled everything, the church, the school, the town, and he still controls probably about 30% of it. I'm going out there just this next week and using baseball as a platform just to reach kids. And it's been a long process, but now we're allowed to share the gospel. And back in March, we saw our first converts. It took us over a year, but we saw our first 5 converts come to Christ. And so pretty cool deal.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And you were rattling off all that stuff, and I've been around you guys for a few years now here at the NCCAA, and I didn't even know all this stuff that you guys are doing. You mentioned baseball there a moment ago. I know Scores worked with the likes of Andy Pettit, Mariano Rivera, Lou Piniella, just to name a few. With your domestic and international baseball clinics, what kind of impact has it had having those kind of big names for what you're trying to do?
Tremendous, because one of our first thing, what SCORE stands for, is Sharing Christ Our Redeemer Enterprises. And we use that word enterprises as we would use a word called platform. And those guys back, 9, 10 years ago helped build that platform of drawing crowds through a game with a wooden bat and a leather ball. And whenever those guys came to the Dominican Republic or into a domestic trip, I mean, it's over. I mean, they come from everywhere because of the impact these men have. And they've been very, very supportive of SCORE through the years. Not so much now as we've all gotten a little older and, things change. But back when they were traveling with us, Lou is still involved with us to a degree, and Andy Pettit is too. But things change and we move on. But boy, these guys brought impact, that brought credibility to the cross of Jesus Christ, because that's all they wanted to talk about was Christ. And we would see many, many people come to Christ after these guys show up, share their testimony, and it's just powerful, very powerful. Because the kids in those kind of islands, areas, and even in the domestic towns, they know who they are, and they'll listen to them because they want what they have. And that's so important. And God has so ordained their lives to do that.
That's incredible. I'd love to hear more about your clean water projects. What impact has that had on the local communities where you're putting those in? And has it helped the locals be receptive to you guys and sharing the gospel there?
Yes, I didn't even mention that. We've been involved with the clean water deal in the water houses, and we started that probably 5, 6 years ago. And we hook it up with the church and the pastor, because many pastors cannot, they can't get paid, but they can sell water. And clean water is what they have to have. Even in the Dominican Republic, you could dig a well, but you can't get clean water out of it. It's still contaminated because it's so rocky, and the soil is not like we have when you dig a well here in the United States. But we put in these clean water systems, and they come out. When the water comes out, the water is purer than even a bottle of Dasani water. It's that much better, way, way better. I've seen the testing many times. And so the pastors are allowed to sell the water, and we have to be careful because we can't be offensive to the local supermarket, the Mercado, but we get it, and then that way they can supplement their salaries as pastors of churches. So all the water houses go to that, and then the water houses give us an opportunity to help the pastors, but also help deliver a message that Jesus is the water of life, and we use that all the time, especially when we do a grand opening of a water house. What an opportunity to just give the gospel after it's up and running, built, and it's all concreted in and in a storefront type of thing. And it's really cool to see that happening. And the people can buy the water cheaper because they got to buy clean water. They can't get water out of the ground. It's very, very. It'll make even the Dominicans sick, and so they have to be careful. They must buy bottled water, and if we can sell it to them cheaper, a little bit cheaper, not way cheaper. We tried that, and that's going to lead to some riots. So we have to sell it. We have a rule. We basically sell it about 20% cheaper, and then the store owners seem pretty good with that, so they're all right.
That makes sense. You got to keep the locals happy. But we've talked about so many different ministries that SCORE does: human trafficking, baseball clinics, the water. If our listeners are wanting to get involved with SCORE International with any of these ministries, how would they do that?
Well, of course, go to our website, www.scoreintl.org, and just look at what you would like to do. They can call us. There's plenty of ways to contact us. And then just come join a trip. All our trips are custom made, Brandon, which means you don't have to have a group to go on a trip. You can come join us on a trip. You want to go to Utah, Alabama? Hey, we'll hook you up and you can come there. You want to go to Hilldale, Utah, Nogales, Mexico, East St. Louis, Brooklyn, New York. We can send you to places with other groups, and you just jump right in and help. And then, obviously, more than anything, we need the prayer and the support. There's no question about that in these times. But more than anything, the prayer and just the encouragement, and that's been good. And the NCCAA, I want to say this, Brandon, you guys have been a blessing to us because you partner with your athletes to help them go on trips with us, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And these kids are just been a blessing. Everybody that's gone with us has been a blessing.
Well, I know we love partnering with SCORE. You guys send us chaplains at most, if not all, of our championships, and it's been a great partnership, and we look forward to continuing that. But that's all the time we have today. But thank you, John, for joining us today on King Chasing.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.
Well, thanks again to John for sharing some memories of his time as a player and coach at former NCCAA member institutions, the various ministries of SCORE International, and how you can get involved with SCORE. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the King Chasing podcast on whatever app you use to listen. We would also appreciate it if you encouraged others to listen and subscribe. Once again, we're thankful to you for tuning in and supporting us. Join us next time on King Chasing. Take care, everyone.